Welcome to a comic book look, everybody. My name is John, aka John on Demand, straight from the pages of a comic book look. And what do we do on a comic book look after hours? We talk to awesome creators, and awesome creators we have. Today we're actually visiting with special guest Arel Herbrand, and you are visiting me from the West Coast. Is that correct? Pacific time?
Yes, I am.
Oh, those time zones.
Yeah.
So how are you doing today?
No complaints, Daddy-o. Absolutely fine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't worry about it. Mine does it all the time. So today we're going to be just kind of visiting with you. I kind of want to get into your head as a creator because what we're going to talk about is kind of an awesome but also kind of a unique process in comparison to some of my previous interviews. There's a lot of things that I do like, so we're going to kind of just get into that a little bit. Just to kind of give you guys an oversight, Arel is actually the writer for a graphic novel. It was actually supposed to be a screenplay for a movie, but he wanted to lean more towards that comic book medium, it sounds like, based on what I read from your websites. And so we are going to be talking about Kings of the Overgrove. First of all, I loved it. I'm not going to lie to you. I'll give you your beer rating at the end, but I absolutely loved it. Michelle said it'd be fine to go ahead and talk that beer rating at the end of it.
Yeah.
But one thing I did want to I'm just going to kind of go through the notes here. And the first thing, you had made a comment before we even opened the show about how you're, maybe not so much into like the Facebooking and stuff like that. However, your website is slick, user-friendly, and I saw that you have a team that helped you with the motion comic that's on YouTube, parts 1 and 2. But just the website in itself, I just wanted to first of all say kudos on the presentation of that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Everything down to that little avocado icon in the browser window. So I did get a charge out of that. So I did just want to acknowledge that for you here. Whose idea was it for the read and watch options on there? Because I'm a big fan of options, and you gave them to us.
You know what? Just about everything on the website, John, was set up by two guys. Okay. One was at the bottom of the website, a friend of mine, JP Boyachian, and then the artist, Dave Nielsen, who did the artwork for the comic. He set up the artwork really for the website and kind of the characters and how it generally looks. And JP did the the groundwork, whatever you call it, behind the scenes stuff. As far as the how you can zoom in and do all of that stuff on the comic, that was, I don't know, it was probably both of them working together. All I wanted, and I pretty much was hands-off on all this stuff, so I can take no credit for it. All I wanted was really the ability to zoom in and zoom out, because I wanted, again, it's a kid's graphic novel, as you can see. It's really aimed at children. I wanted them to, because I draw, I wanted them to be able to keep zooming in on it, so that they could actually see the lines that David drew. So you could look at that. If you go in close enough, you could see his lines. And I wanted any young artists out there to be able to say, oh, I can learn how to do this. Oh, this is how he did it. And that was critical. The web comic, or whatever you call those motion comics, that came later. But my primary concern was I really wanted kids to feel like, oh, this is how this is done. So that was my hope.
Absolutely. And like you've done a very very good job with that, and just presenting it, because when you give us that motion version of it to do against the reading part, I just thought that was splendid, and I think that the younger audience will, if they haven't already, just eat that up, because that is so neat, and just again awesome. I also thought it was smart on the website. You have your social networking on the top right, which is one of the most common places that people look in a website, is going to be that top right portion of the screen. So that was very smart. One question for you. And if I missed a detail in the story here, shame on me, and I'll give myself a 1 beer rating. But my question for you was this: there is a graphic on there that says nieces, and then it's tally 6 with a bit of redhead hair on it, and I was just wondering what that was. I'm just being nitpicky.
No, I'm glad you asked. That is, it's literally 5 nieces. I've got 5 nieces. So when I started writing, I started a little film company, and the name of it is 5 Nieces. So you'll notice there's 4 lines with the 5th. That's like per 5, and then I just put nieces underneath. Yeah. And that's what that is. That's our logo.
That's awesome. Okay.
Kind of corny, but...
Hey, no, I was just like, okay. I mean, because I was like, well, you know, hopefully... they don't have some cousins that I missed in the book. I doubt it, though. You know? So I just wanted to make sure. When you had originally reached out to me, I watched it the first time. I didn't have a chance to read it at that point, but I did sit down actually just earlier today and read it, just to do kind of a comparison. And I did want to say that, aside from the fact I'm a fan that you have the choices, I'm also glad to see that they blend well together, that they coincide, which is perfect. So, did like that.
Let me just add on that. I don't mean to interrupt.
Oh, you're
but
fine.
If you notice the written versus the web comic, sometimes the dialogue's a little different. Mm-hmm. And at a certain point, we just didn't go back and change it. We just, you know, you got to keep moving forward. At some point, we caught it. We said, should we redo this, go back? And finally, we just threw in the towel and says, let the kids catch all the mistakes, and that might become its own story. I don't know.
Exactly. Oh, and you know, that does happen sometimes, but I mean, as long as you're capturing those characters, which I really do think you guys did, that's the main thing, at least for me as a reader. The final thing about the website, and then we'll kind of jump off of that, is I like the ability for viewers to comment and promoting that interactivity. Good for you.
Oh, thank you.
Good for you.
Again, all of that would be David Nielsen, the artist, and JP. They thought of all these things. I certainly wasn't thinking about them.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm glad you liked them.
Absolutely. Well, let's kind of get into the nuts and the bolts of the story here, and I want you to just kind of take me down to where this all started for you.
Well, you know what? A couple of things. One is just about everything above ground, before they go into, obviously, the undergrowth, is true. It actually happened to my brother, myself. And so that wasn't very hard to do, and it was much more brutal than it looks in the book. But to the point where you notice there was a snare in there. We actually got the little kid down the street who tagged along with us. My brother built a snare. I don't know how he knew how to build a snare. And we had to have him step in. The tree wasn't big enough to lift him because we're kids. So we're pushing up on the tree, and he flips up, and then he's hanging about this much off the ground. So it was kind of we were knuckleheads. But so the story on that part was generally all true. The idea of making the story, I originally, and I'd be glad to send this to you, it was a screenplay, is a screenplay. And it got a lot of notice. It was just the little engine that never quite got there. So at that point, that's when I decided, I don't read graphic novels. I've read one in my life, one actually. And that really caught my eye was The Road to Perdition.
Oh, very good.
I thought the artwork in that was incredible.
Okay.
And as I understand it, took a British artist, took him 4 or 5 years to do. So, and it was incredible. And then Tom Hanks made the movie of it.
And that's what
that's all the world I knew. I just thought it would work as a graphic. So that's what we did. We took it from a screenplay, David and myself. And then what happened is he edited out a character or two, I can't remember, at least one, because he didn't think it was working. I kind of disagreed, being the author. Then I'm looking at it thinking he's absolutely right. And that's when we sat down, he sketched it all out, so on and so forth, and then what we've got now, you know. Yeah. I hope that answers, I don't know.
No, absolutely. And it's so interesting that you kind of lived a bit of that, too. So, were you guys, like, throwing avocados? Is that...
That fight?
Yeah.
That happened. Yeah, we're so outnumbered. Again, I'm the one who doesn't want to do this. My brother was intrepid, man. He backed off against nothing. I don't care how many. He just said, meet you in a week, and that's what we did for a whole week. And I'm thinking, how did he think of this immediately when they challenged him? It wasn't like he thought it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Where it was lingering,
they
couldn't pick an avocado if they wanted to, because we had picked any possibility of getting an avocado was eliminated, and those holes were dug, and everything you see is how it went down.
That's so awesome.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I don't say that happily. It's just, and all those kids ended up being our friends anyway in the end. You know how that goes.
Very good. Were they? So they were from a separate school then?
Somewhere, and I honestly, I couldn't even tell you who the kids were.
Yeah.
Some of them I would still know because I knew them longer, and other ones are just kids around. I don't know.
You bet.
It's fun.
You bet. Absolutely. Well, I did just want to kind of then go into some of the concepts that I really liked. First of all, I liked the differences between the two primary characters, Bob and Lewis. Bob I have identified as the strong one, but also the strong-willed one. But then, of course, there's Lewis, and Lewis is the intellectual. He's not always completely innocent either, though, because sometimes he'll say like a snide comment, you know, to Bob and get him going and so forth. And it totally reminds me of me and my brother too, growing up. So I got such a chuckle. Got such a chuckle out of that. I do like Taco the Squirrel. I thought that was just kind of a fun one. And then the grandpa, of course, you know, just trying to break it up, go clean the window, one on the outside, one on the inside.
Right.
Totally. I mean, these are just things that just make me smile. It kind of takes me back a bit, you know. The first prominent theme then is kind of what we already discussed, and that is going to be the fight scene, and that is going to be bullying. I think that this is wonderful that you're introducing this concept in the book for young readers. Because a lot of young people actually do tend to flock to these mediums of media. So when you're exposing them to bullying and having Bob plan that out, you know, do we endorse that? You know, it happens either way, right? But the one thing that I do endorse is that Lewis showed mercy to him. I like the part where he hands them, two of the boys, an avocado and says, "Hey, doll up, or you're gonna get it rough," from Bob. Right. You know, I thought that was such a good example for, you know, young readers and even us. You know, everybody. Everybody needs a little mercy once in a while. But I really did. I did appreciate that. We also did talk about you know, the foot booby trap. And I thought it was funny that one of the bullies was upside down, and so were his word bubbles in a couple of panes. How clever is that? So I mean, these are just little things that I got such a kick out of. There's a lot of clever wordplay in it, and I can definitely see that you put a lot of thought into this. The part two I noticed was not available to read, but it was available to watch. So I did, of course, have a chance to take a peek at that, and I'm not complaining. I just noticed it.
You know what? It's kind of funny. My idea was to keep the reading part up with the book part, or with the web comic. Oh, you say that they don't reach the same? That's because I don't know. I don't go on the website much because I'm doing other things. Yeah. And I thought, we're going to have to keep them up. And if you notice, in the character portion of the website, I haven't gone forward with characters either because I don't think the Evil Harris is listed. Yeah. I got a little lazy on some of this stuff, I'll admit. But that's a good thing you mentioned it because now I'll have to go back with JP and kind of move things.
Hey, I'm not snapping the whip. I'm just telling you what I'm saying. But no, you know, it's. I think that it's definitely the website. You know, of course, has room to grow, and that's a good place to be in. Yeah. It is. And why lay all the cards on the table when the whole story's not told yet, right? Characters that we meet coming up in part two, it kind of goes from reminding me of my childhood to more of the imagination part now, which I think it's great. I think it's wonderful. We meet characters 1 of 7, the Evil Harris, the concept of what is the name stone. We meet Poot Leonard, the value of Poot. These are all things that kind of bring up other themes, in my opinion, in a more gentle fashion for the younger reader. on there, because we do have villainy, but he's not shooting people with guns. He has a slingshot, and he has a lobster claw on one hand, and he's just kind of big and kind of a brute, you know, and kind of a bully. So it's just kind of a way of showing them this is a bad guy, but we don't need to have blood and flesh everywhere and all that, you know. So I do appreciate your setting those boundaries for the younger readers on there, and for me, it's honestly kind of a break too from a lot of the stuff that we, you know, get exposed to. So I do appreciate that. I also appreciate the concept of diversity on here, and I really think that this is a big heavy hitter, and I know that Poot Leonard, well, he is defined by 107 as a worthless character. I think that he's probably going to prove to be the most valuable. I've only watched part 1 and 2, but I am very excited to see what role he has to play in the story coming up. I did like how Lewis stood up to 107 and said he's a he, not an it. So, just kind of, for younger people, it's just like, there are going to be different people in your class, you know, at school or on your teams and so forth. Bottom line is, different people are out there. Let's move on.
Yeah, right. Thanks. That was my general hope, and I think you're right in your kind of idea of what's ahead. I just wanted to make Poot Leonard a bit of a blue collar sort of a guy. The politics will come in later, and I use politics real loosely because it's a children's story, but you're going to start seeing why he doesn't trust 107, so on and so forth. And so, yeah, exactly what you said is kind of what I was hoping for. Sure. I'm glad it worked, because you don't know, you're writing this stuff.
Yeah, no worries. So I did get a kick out of that. Finally, my question here that I wrote down was the cuisine on the Undergrowth. They eat crystals and Snar is once a year, but Snar is the opposite of Poot. So Poot is kind of a gentle term for maybe something else.
Unclean, dirty
exactly. Stuff. And then, so Snar we haven't really necessarily encountered yet, I guess, because they did feed him crystals to bring him up to snuff. But Snar, it's just a term that has been presented at this point. Will we be seeing that particular, is that like more of a royalty? Did the other 7 like feast on that particular thing since they're a bit upper class versus the blue collar where Poot Leonard comes from, or am I just kind of shooting for the stars?
No, it is going to come into play, and it's going to be very exciting. It will actually be used in a comic way, in an absolute fun way. But also, the screenplay uses it a little bit differently. And again, you have to remember, the screenplay has some things that the graphic novel doesn't, simply because of time.
Yeah.
The screenplay actually uses it even more than the graphic novel. But I love, again, I can't remember what you've seen, John, but I love the way Dave drew what Snar is going to do. You're going to see, and it won't be a letdown. And when you combine the Snar with the crystals, look out, Daddy. Right on. You'll see.
That's awesome. So, just kind of getting back to yourself then, I guess, since you did mention this kind of pertains to a bit of your childhood. What character do you identify with then? Are you more of the Lewis or more of the Bob?
Well, yes, actually. Again, as an author, people want to think that you're one of the characters in a way. And with this one, I can't deny it. My brother, his name Bob, is a real strong guy, just naturally gifted athlete, all of those things. And I was a bit more of the Lewis. I would, when sibling rivalry, you use your own weapons. And I couldn't beat him up, so I had to verbally attack, which in the end probably is worse when you're adults, because you know a person's emotional and psychological weakness, and those scars are always worse. But having said that, we weren't really all that. I mean, we were wrestlers and goofed with each other, so we got along very fine. I had to just build all that stuff up. So I identify probably more with Lewis because I was more like that, but my brother wasn't really as mean-spirited as the kid in the story might come off either. So,
Sure.
You're writing a story, you have to up the ante on everything you do. So that's kind of what I did.
Absolutely. Absolutely. With the story as a whole, I personally am very excited to see where it goes. I do intend on getting a copy and was going to bug you later about maybe doing a signed copy. I would pay
appropriately. I was already on that. I got something else I was excited about. We've got, the webcom. We have DVD, but we only have episode 1 and 2, so I'll send that with it so you can kind of watch it. But we'll talk about what you want to talk about, but we can talk about that too and what we're doing with it.
Awesome. So, no, absolutely. Well, let's kind of just, I wanted to kind of get into a bit of the past a little bit here with your process in general. Are there other projects that are predecessors to this one that you had been doing, or how did you get interested in creating?
Well, I've liked to write pretty much all my life. I've never been a serious writer. Some kids, writing in journals, writing. I remembered writing 5th, 6th grade at that time, and then just not doing it for a long time. And then probably even after college, I started writing again. And for some reason, I liked screenplays because I liked the style, I liked movies, I like images. And so that's what I did. As I've told you, this was originally a screenplay. And since then, I've written the prequel to this one. Sequel, prequel. It's really a prequel, but it's the sequel to this.
Sure.
And let me say this, and not because I'm the one writing. I've never written a sequel. I've always been like, this is the story, this is where it begins, this is where it ends, we got nothing more to say. But the guy who did the music for the motion comic, Joe Alfuso, he just kept bugging me to write a sequel. And then, boom, it came to me. And I can tell you, in my opinion, I like the prequel more. In fact, if you put them side by side, I bet you would too. Because it's taken from real history. It's going to be when the grandfather went down into the undergrowth. So it's much years earlier.
Okay.
I took it from a real event in history, something that happened in California at the time. And, well, if you want, I could tell you a little bit about it. If you don't.
Hey, we'll put the spoiler alert on this one.
Yeah. I'm never too worried about ruining it. What happened is, and here's again, this might be a little bit of the creative process. I don't know. Joe Alfuso, the guy who did the music, and his son Michael, who directed it, said, let's do a sequel. So I thought, okay, can't grow avocados just anywhere in the world, anywhere in the United States. So I thought it's got to take place in California generally. And what's happened in California that would kind of give me an impetus to write a story. You need something. And all of a sudden it came to me. I saw a picture of the Santa Anita racetrack, the famous racetrack here in California. And behind it was something like 40 barracks. So during World War II, they kept Japanese Americans there as a way station to send them to the basically the internment camps in California during the Second World War. So I thought, wow, that's a shocking photo, and it was amazing. So I thought, wow, what if out of that camp, which isn't far from where I lived, in Los Angeles here, what if a kid escaped? And that was the beginning of one of my characters. I had a Japanese girl escape from the camp.
That's okay.
And then I thought, Grandpa's in the avocado grove as a little boy, and some of the story now is this girl escapes, and she's American, but she hates white Americans because they've imprisoned her parents and her and put her in a horse stall. They lived in stalls, so on and so forth. At the same time, Secretariat was the it's the Secretariat or Seabiscuit, and kind of get those two mixed up in my mind. But anyway, they're in their stuff. And Grandpa is Tommy, now young, his name's Tommy. He's looking down, because the avocado grove is right near there. He's looking down, and he's writing a letter to his father. It's just about Christmas, saying he can't wait to see his father come home for Christmas. And again, these are visuals. And he's writing a letter. He's making a little model of the ship that his dad is in, because his dad's in the Navy, and he's putting it in. And the camera kind of comes around to show you he's working off an encyclopedia, because, you know, this is back in the days where everything was, you don't get online to look up anything you want to know. And the camera slowly comes around, and you see the USS Arizona. Well, no kid is going to know most what that is. But we as adults kind of already know, wow, this kid isn't going to see his parents. In fact, his father's going to die in less than a month from the bombing of Pearl Harbor. So now I got two characters, a Japanese girl and the grandfather in our story, both at the same age. They meet and they hate each other because the white Americans have interned her family and taken everything they ever had away. Yep. They haven't done anything wrong by the presidential order 90, I think it was 9166 with President Roosevelt. And then it was an executive order. And then Tommy's father was killed by the Japanese. Now, these are the two that are going to go down into the underworld. And they hate each other. And she is not going to help him save his grove. And he is not going to help her. And man, it was a blast to write, because the themes that are happening above are now going to go down below. And in the second one, you're going to see how the evil Harris became evil, how the revolution took place in the first place. And it was very exciting. It was great to write. Yeah. And I think it has more thematic value, deals with deeper things without getting too deep. It's still a children's story. I got different types of monsters. It was pretty cool. It was fun to do.
That sounds awesome.
That's what I hope to maybe do next. Absolutely. I mean, it's written. The screenplay is already finished, and we'll see what happens.
Awesome. So here's it's kind of a dumb question. We're in the age of electronics. I mean, you and me were talking over Skype. Yeah. Your team of creators and everybody, I know Michelle mentioned that I don't know if she's in your immediate area or not, but I mean, do you just go team assemble, for a board meeting and make this project happen? Are you guys all in person, or do you communicate electronically like we're doing?
It's funny that you asked that. I looked quite a while for an artist I wanted to do the work. And let me mention a little bit about that. I wanted a certain look to the book. Yeah. I'm not a big comic book reader, never was, even as a kid. There's a certain look to most graphic novels, and again, they're more adult. So, I'm going to take this thing off here. I wanted a traditional look to it. It looks painted, so on and so forth, and I kind of could go over how we did that. So I looked for an artist. Finally, I met Dave Nielsen, and I really liked his style. Immediately, I thought, wow, the guy's got a real sense of composition, and he does kind of the look that I wanted. So we got together, and I just hired him to do the job. And I'll tell you a bit about that, and not to tell business or stuff. I don't know. I like to know this stuff, how people do things.
Yeah.
I met with Dave, didn't know him, gave him the screenplay to read. He read it. He said, I think this would make a good graphic novel. He had just finished art school, had never done a job. In fact, he hadn't graduated from, I think, 2nd Avenue or 2nd Street art school or whatever it is in, down by San Diego way. Boy, when I go down, I'm kind of a little nervous here.
Oh, that's okay. Remember.
Yeah, it was down towards San Clemente. Anyway, so I hired him, and the way we did that was, I said, figure out your budget. What do you need a month to live on? And I said, don't go much over, because I don't have much money. And he did. He got together, did a budget. We agreed to it. I said, okay, I'll pay you that for a month for the period of time it takes to do this job. And he did it. That was how that worked. Then when it was finished, I was showing my friend Joe Alfuso, who did the music, who's done music for Disney, used to work for Disney, and does a lot of stuff. He said, you ought to make a web comic out of it. I had no idea what that was. He didn't really have a name. He just said, I think we could do this. We ought to shoot the things, and because I had it on my iPad. And so I said, yeah, that's a good idea. I'll think about it, He said, well, my son's he's in film school at Cal State Northridge, Michael Alfuso. He does skateboarding videos and stuff. He's a talented kid. He says, he might want to direct it. So I said, okay, let's get together, talk about it. Boom, boom, boom. They looked at it. Yeah, let's do this. Oh. That was that. They shot it. We did all of those things. I paid Michael nominally. He's still in school, so we worked around his schedule. Everything's kind of slower because he's in school. He's taking tests. His father's writing music for other big projects, major things. And in between, he's working for me for nothing, just trying to write music. So now we're pulling together a little team. Well, then we have to make a website. Believe me, I no more know a good website from a bad one. I go literally looking for something specific. Yeah. Another friend of mine who's in the film business at Film Solutions and Silvercrest Entertainment. He says, hey, my cousin makes websites, and he's pretty good. He's good at the back end of things, making sure that everything runs right. JP, why don't you call my cousin? I call JP. We come to an agreement on price. It was when you have a lot of money, it doesn't matter, but when you don't. So he came in with a good price. It was fair. He wasn't feeling like he was working for nothing, but he was doing. So he set all that up. So now we got the team. I've got the artist. We finished the book. Now, how do you print it? Well, here's how my thinking works. How many do you print? I don't know how many you're going to sell. So I started looking into print shops, So I thought, well, I could go to China and get a zillion of them printed up for a little bit. It's less to have a billion of them printed in China and sent over here than it is here. But at the same time, I didn't want a zillion books. If they don't sell, where am I going to store them? So I thought, and plus, I wanted to, and this, again, is just, how you do things yourself. I wouldn't tell someone else to do it this way. But I wanted someone who was a printer here in America, because printers need work, So you get less, but you feel like it's going to somebody you know. I met with the guy, Rafi. So, again, one of these guys' cousins, hey, he's in the print. If you work with Armenians, everybody has a cousin, believe me, who does something. So Kevin's cousin was a printer, did a fine job. I met, we agreed on a price, and so on and so forth. He printed, I think, 500 books. And that was because I didn't have lots of room to store them. And so that's kind of how we did. Right. And now I've got a team who, Joe does the music, Michael did all the directing, all the effects, and then as far as the children and the acting, we all kind of did that together with Michael directing. So that's kind of how I pulled the team together. And it's worked out real well. I don't know if that answers how...
Dude, that totally answers. That's so great.
That's kind of the way I did it. It cost some money, of course. And I'll tell you why I wanted to pay guys as much as where I could. And then there's just guys that, like Joe Alfuso, he's 1,000 times better than you could ever pay him. And he's a friend who said, I just want to come on board and do a web comic, and don't worry about that. So he's very, very helpful in that way. But I've rewritten other people's work as a screenwriter. People, they ask me, and I've done a lot of free work in that way. And I don't mind doing it, especially if it's friends and so on and so forth. But having spent a lot of time doing that, I thought, even if you pay someone not what they're worth, but something that it's worth their time, it makes all the difference, and it makes them feel better and valued. So that's why I kind of did it that way. And I'm not trying to go on about money and all that, but I think this is the part where people don't talk enough as amateurs and at this level, how they do things. Yeah. So that's kind of how we did it.
No, that's awesome. Because, we don't get to see that, the behind-the-scenes stuff. And I'm always just, I'm a big fan of, teamwork is awesome. I really do think, the three of us, when we do our comic book club thing, each of us has our own little things we do on a weekly basis. I'm doing these extra things on my own, and that kind of thing. And I totally dig that you guys are staying consistent with the project, and you guys put out a very awesome product.
Oh, thanks.
Very awesome. Gosh, well, I promised you I'd give you a beer rating, and it's no secret. I am enamored with the work that you guys have done, and I think that it's wonderful. I am going to give you the full 6-pack. As I drink my coffee, but I really did appreciate it, and I'm not gonna call myself a super young reader, but I appreciate the digital medium. Continue to push that is my advice. Have it available in both. I'm old school in some ways too. I like having it in my hands. I just bought some X-Men 1960s comics at that Lawrence convention, and I'm just tickled pink about it, so,
right, absolutely.
So for me, I like having it in my hands, and I'm big on having creators sign their work, because it is something to celebrate and something to be proud about. Absolutely. If I could sign my YouTube videos, I would.
You're right.
But
maybe that's something you ought to invent, and pay $1 zillion.
Like, on some of those newer phones, I'm sure you could, but it
I definitely can.
So before we wrap up, just to kind of have everyone be able to get in touch with you, where can we find you at online, or your publications? Will they be on like Amazon, or what are your plans?
You can always go to Kings, and it's a long title, but kingsofovergrove.com, and I think you could get in touch with me there, Arel Herbrand. I hope you could. Like I say, I should be checking this stuff out. JP kind of watches everything on my website for me, and Michelle, she's very helpful. So you could just, I think, Arel Herbrand at Gmail. I'm not sure. I should know this stuff. But go to the website, and you should be able. We're on Facebook. Yes, we're on Facebook at Kings of Overgrove.
Awesome. And
so you should be able to do that. Something I wanted to, if I could take just a second, John.
Totally.
I wanted to show you a bit of the process.
Yeah.
When David and I met, because of the artwork, here's kind of what, I don't know if you're seeing this very well.
Oh, I sure am.
These, as you notice, David drew everything with red pencil. Don't ask me why. He says he's never going to do that again because it's that much harder. Then he painted it with watercolor. You can see that. So originally, we're going to have 2-color, kind of a sepia, monochromatic, because printing-wise, it's so much cheaper. And it was something. And then he eventually started doing it on these art boards, so we could get 2 pages, kind of divided down the middle. And there's page 1, page 2. And then what we did. And again, this is the artist in me wanting to tell other artists how to do everyone. And I don't know if this is the best way by any means. Then what happened? Then we scanned those. And then what happened is we took those scanned images, and then David on his computer painted it. So all the painting that you see is obviously done on the computer. And I don't know what he used the Cintiq and just painted it all in. So that's how the color that's why it has that traditional art look. It doesn't look like, for example, when you look at comic books, if someone has a cape that's blue, it's just straight blue with some black shading. That's what I didn't want. I wanted it to look like a painting. And I hope that when kids go online, they can actually, some of those frames, and I'm not saying I didn't draw them and paint them, so I'm bragging on Dave, but some of them are just plain beautiful pictures. I mean, you can stop and look at those and think, wow, what a beautiful piece of work. And you can keep coming in on that. Now, if you notice on the web motion comic, sometimes it looks like things move a little bit.
Yep.
I don't know what that's called, but there was a word we used, and I don't think it's correct. But anyway, if you notice, again, you learn these things. When Dave saved it, or he didn't layer it right, I don't want to say he did it wrong, but he did it. He never thought we were going to be making a motion comic, so that was never. So the long and short is, whenever you see movement, you'll always see the character comes towards you. Because if we move them back, we have a black hole. It literally fills in blank.
Oh, yeah. No,
because layers weren't done by background, this and that. So we always have to have kind of, nobody's noticed it, but have your viewers notice. They're always coming at you to fill the screen because we can't have them going backwards. Things you learn. But that's the look I wanted, was a traditional art look. Yeah. So it looks literally shaded. That's why he shaded it, because you can't really shade as well on the computer as you can with paint. Then he had the dimensionality, and then he could go in and paint. And it was a blast watching that process. Absolutely. We would meet once every couple of weeks. I'd just go down, I'd take the train down to his place and check it all out. And then he'd show me what he did. We'd sit around, have coffee, and I'd say, hey, that looks great. And that's kind of how it worked. And I like that aspect of it. I like the look he got. And I guess I'm saying that's the most fun of the whole project. Seeing something go from a written form, which was the screenplay, and basically this is any director could pick this thing up and shoot the film if they wanted to. It's practically a I can't remember the word where someone draws the scene for a movie type of thing. But I like watching it go from word to
something to see.
What you see it as and he did a great job. And some people wouldn't like it. I mean, again, it's for children, and I just wanted them to look at it and enjoy the art. The story is the story is the story. Yeah. But some people told me the story goes too fast here and too slow there. And you know what? I don't know when it was too fast or too slow, because I've never done a graphic novel. All I knew is you can't keep having more and more pages. So we got it to, 129 page or whatever it is. And we just said, man, we've got to fit it in this. So that's kind of how we did it, John.
Well, and I'll have to humbly, disagree with that. If anyone of any age has a problem with that book, they need to talk to me, because I love the book, and I am going to be your biggest cheerleader of the male sort, I suppose. But I totally dig the book, and for me, I usually root for the bad guys, so this is kind of a thing that kind of took me back, and I enjoyed the cleverness of it all. And I think that anyone that isn't able to see that needs to either reread it or get your eyes checked or something, because I like it. I do like it, and I am looking forward to checking out the future aspects of this, the prequel/sequel coming up, especially, and then also updating that website, of course. So I am very excited about this project, and I'm very glad that this interview worked out. I know we've been kind of playing a bit of a email tag there, but Michelle has been so patient, so I did just want to take a moment and say thank you. It's been a pleasure working with her, and she did invite me to hang out with her at a California con, should I ever make it out your guys' way.
Absolutely. That'd be great. Definitely let me know if you come out this way, because we'll show you around. Totally. By the way, I did want to mention, just in case someone wanted to get hold of me, again, RL is AREL. Herbrand, so not just the letters RL, AREL, Herbrand at Gmail, or as I say, go on King's Boat. I don't email myself very often. If you do come out this way, absolutely let us know, and let me know how to give me your address and so, or I don't know, maybe
you bet.
Through here we could talk privately. And then I'd like to get you the full book and signed. In fact, I got one signed by me and then by David also.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah, that'd be great. Oh, and then that way you can know the whole story too.
Absolutely. No, I definitely appreciate that.
That'd be great.
Well, I'll get you those details in just a moment. Then
Okay.
We will wrap up the interview. Guys, if you're not checking out his work, you better, or I'm gonna be pissed. So, this is a 6-beer project that we're talking about here on a comic book look. Big deal. From me to you, I am just so humbled that you reached out to us. We're just a small podcast from South Dakota. A dime a dozen, although we keep it classy with our shades. I'm so glad that we made that connection over Twitter. And it's just been a blast. So definitely looking forward to keeping in touch. You guys know the drill as well. Keep it comics, behave. Have a very good week, and be sure to check them out. And I'll put the contact information beneath the video. Bye.